Oh, shit. Do you know what time it is?
Is it tabletop
It's tabletop time! I'm Jazza.
I'm Dave.
And we're going to turn this into another version of this with the colours we pick. We actually put it to you guys in a Patreon post as a poll as to what chapter we should customise this, is it McFarlane? There you go, McFarlane Toys Giant Space Marine as. Do you want to know which one won? I snuck in one last minute. A tabletop time themed custom chapter. Won by a long shot. Look, I bring the shameless self-advertising into the mix, then with your help, we'll bring in a little bit of like hobby cred into the mix.
Look, the patrons decided it, and the internet knows that I wanted it to be a Blood Raven, and we'll move on.
This video is brought to you by Warhammer 40,000 Lost Crusade. When you come join in and rally your chapter for your chance to win one of 5 gift codes worth $30 of in-game rewards.
So if you enter the Rally Your Chapter website and choose your favorite chapter, download some Lost Crusade wallpapers and participate on the Emperor's Gift to collect more resources for your battle bard.
Hi everyone, welcome to my unboxing. This is how I open presents on Christmas as a kid. Give me my toy!
I'm gonna start this off right. I'm gonna do this the right way. You got a friend in me. You got a
Blue! Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
That's not on our model. Do we want that on our model?
Oh, you mean like
A purity series.
Yeah, definitely.
Time to get stuck into customizing our giant Space Marine toy. I have had my eye on this thing for a long time. I've been really keen to customize it. I'm really excited we're jumping into it. In large part because I love me some converting and sculpting. So I opted to tackle that part of this project. Now I wanted to push this into a bit more of a grimdark, mature vibe, getting some battle scars over this character. But through our brainstorming and planning, Dave pitched the idea of our chapter being a very religious one in the Warhammer universe. And I really liked that vibe for a few reasons. One, it gives me a lot to work with in terms of sculpting and converting. The Warhammer 40,000 universe has a lot of that religious iconography and that gothic style, candles and tomes and books and scrolls and all that epic stuff. And it works perfectly for our custom tabletop time themed chapter because we are relentlessly vocal about our love for tabletop role-playing games and miniatures and all that stuff. We're spreading the good word of tabletop gaming, converting the unconverted, purging heresy. We put our heads together with some ideas we thought really worked, like a book on the right shoulder of the Space Marine, strapped to him with the religious text of the goodness of tabletop gaming, purity seals hanging over the Space Marine, reflecting his oaths and loyalty to tabletop gaming, of course, and all the battle damage gained from being in the trenches and fighting the good fight on behalf of tabletop gaming and hobbying. Now, just like painting minis, sometimes it's easier to do it in pieces before you bring it all together, and fortunately this little doll actually separated reasonably easily. It wasn't super easy to put back together, which was a little awkward at times, but I got it back together in the end and finished off the sculpt by sculpting those candles on his backpack, which I think adds a really cool aesthetic and bulks out the silhouette. That was Dave's suggestion, really cool idea there. And overall, it's this combination of all these little custom elements that really gives this character a custom vibe that I feel is perfect to represent tabletop time.
So Jeremy has got this base and he's put it on the computer and scaled it up, but I'm thinking of doing something a little bit more special with that. Actually, do you know where Jazza is? Because I was kind of thinking I should use his VR set that he does sculpting with.
I think he's been locked in. He's got the on-air on over there. So
he doesn't have anything scheduled to film today. Hey man, I just saw you on air with light. What's up? What are you doing?
Playing Warhammer 40,000 Lost Crusade. Check it out. I can deep strike. Boom! Sorry, how can I help you?
Yeah, VR headset. Sorry, very distracting.
Mask up, coming up, yeah.
Yeah, sick. I was extremely excited when it was suggested that I could use the VR to sculpt a base appropriate for this model. I'd never used the software before, but I've seen it used in Jazz's videos and it looked like a lot of fun. To be honest, it was not a letdown. It was so easy. It was tactile. It really felt like I was in that sculpting world, grabbing things, moving things, and making what I wanted to imagine come to life. I put down the traditional Games Workshop tactical rock. It was extremely important that this sergeant could place one foot slightly higher than the other. I mean, would he really be a Warhammer model if he didn't have one foot heroically placed higher than the other? To decorate the tactical rock, I put in these weird alien spores. I thought I'd go for a little bit of a different vibe to usual. With that done, I was ready to 3D print it with Jeremy, which was gonna be a pretty cool process, seeing it come to life.
This 3D print right here, this one here, for the base for our model, this has just survived a magnitude 6 earthquake mid-print, and we're still printing. So I'm pretty impressed. It looks intact. The earthquake was like a few hours ago.
We're all fine, by the way. We're all fine. So everything's fine here. But, wow. It was really exciting to get a hold of the model after Jazza had customized it. I was really impressed by the purity seals, but mostly the book on the shoulder came together really well. I set up the spray booth and started putting down a base coat. But I did remember the tabletop time on the bottom of the foot, so I made sure to protect that from Chaos Black. Making sure to spray from underneath and all sides, I got a good coverage with the Chaos Black before coming in with some blue primer. So with the black and the blue down, my base coat was finished.
Gee, Dave, that base looks really great. You know what other base looks really great? My base in Warhammer 40,000 Lost Crusade. This video is brought to you and sponsored by Warhammer 40,000 Lost Crusade. Look, sometimes playing Warhammer 40,000 on the tabletop isn't enough. You really just need to play a good old mobile game.
Now, this is officially licensed IP from Games Workshop, and it features heroes from all over the Warhammer 40,000 universe. And something I noticed, in fact, the first thing I noticed when I picked up the game is the voiceovers.
There is no such thing as an unbreakable enemy.
The characters have voices, and it's so cool to hear characters like that female Magos and hearing like you don't hear that traditionally, so it's really fun. I saw in one of the new updates, they've got a rally your chapter, so you can actually play from up to 4 of the Space Marine chapters, the big famous ones. We've got the Ultramarines, the Raven Guard, the Imperial Fists, and the White Scars. There's clan features in the game, so you can build up your clan, join them, meet friends from all over the world. I'm kind of thinking we could make a little studio clan for us to play together after work.
So go download the game with a link in the description, choose your chapter, and let us know in the comments which chapter you chose with your in-game ID to win some gift codes. You can use the unique code to redeem rewards in the game. By the way, by using the code TABLEXLC, you can claim $10 worth of in-game rewards right now. Links in the description. And after you choose your chapter, you'll get an exclusive frame for your avatar representing your choice, and these frames can be upgraded from its basic forms to more advanced ones by collecting fragments through daily tasks or direct pack purchases. Thanks once again to our sponsor. Go check it out with a link in the description. But in the meantime, we've got our own chapter to invent and paint up.
Blue is a fairly important color around the studio, so I started building up the blue from zenithal angles with the airbrush. I was fairly gentle with most of the airbrushing, but because I was using such a fine point nozzle, I could get in really close and do some very bright highlights in certain raised areas. It was during this process that I also painted some little swatches on the model's head. This was to get an idea of what highlight colors I should use. Ultimately, as a sergeant, the head would be painted a different color to the rest of the model, so it didn't matter that these paints wouldn't match. We discussed that silver would be a good tone for the trim, but the exact silver was left to me. I ended up going for black metal with a highlight of thrash metal by scale 75. Quite like the almost brown soft tone that is gently pushed through the thrash metal. Perhaps it's the color itself, or maybe I'm just tired of seeing too many chrome and perfect silvers over the course of my painting career. Painting a model at this scale was definitely different to painting a Warhammer figure. There were large areas and I could use larger brushes. At the same time, in a weird way, base coats were more effective and everything kind of just looked better, even though I was using simpler techniques. Moving from the silver to the next base coat color, I picked a khaki by Vallejo and painted the book's pages and purity seals. From there, I grabbed Stonewall Grey, painted all the areas that would later be white in that grey to help it blend easily up from the blue. It's often difficult painting white directly onto blue or dark colours, but colours such as grey and Stonewall Grey in particular are quite effective at getting good coverage over darker colours. Here I also roughed out freehand. The Tabletop Time logo on the side of the arm and also the checker pattern on the legs was all painted with some good old-fashioned brushwork. On the purity seals, I did some messy and watery highlights with a bone color, building up to blends through multiple glazes. Once these were dry, I brought in a 0.3 fine liner and just scribbled all across the purity seal. You can actually do this on Warhammer minis with really tight fine liners like 0.1s and 0.2s, and it's a very effective way to quickly make your purity seals or books or text look very realistic without having to get in with a brush and freehand it, which is more often likely to lead to catastrophe than glorious success. I highlighted the wax seals with a flat red. I made sure to paint a little freehand TTT logo in the impression in the center of the seal to make it look as if the brass seal had pressed our logo even into the purity seals themselves. When I was using the fine liners to freehand on the text, I also made sure to leave square areas where I would use a brush to paint large strokes in red. This reminded me of how old classical books and fairy tales often have the first letter done artistically, and I really like to emulate that on the purity seals. It just adds a little spot of color or interest, which I think they're lacking. Next up was moving a lot of the joints around. I grabbed a flat black paint and carefully applied it to all of the joints between the armor where the soft armor seals are. At this point, the model wobbling around had begun to frustrate me, and I took that frustration out on the model's head, firmly tearing it from his neck. I was so glad I did this because it allowed me to paint the head with a little bit more finesse. I mixed together a grey using Stonewall Grey and also white and built up multiple blends on the helmet to get something closer to a clean white finish. Once this was done, I painted the lenses with reds, leading all the way up to orangey reds and leaving a small white speck in the corners. With the white painted on the helmet, the battle damage that Jazza had sculpted on there seemed a little bit faded. So I got a dark grey and painted in the recesses before using a flat white to highlight around the lower edge. I then moved on to the book and the leather straps, painting various browns and then highlighting with rough, scratchy strokes to emulate the effect of bent and worn leather. With the browns done, I moved on to quickly freehanding up the pages of the book, with the front of the book showing his allegiance as a close support fighter and also his squad number, which is number 4, true to the model as it was originally painted. Now for finishing up the white elements on the armor, I wanted it to be chipped and weathered, so I actually sponged it on. I sponged on various layers of white and then back across with the blue to make it look worn, chipped, and weathered. If this warrior has been on crusade for some time, it's been a fair while since the sacrosaints of the chapter have been able to polish and paint his armor. With a sepia wash applied thoroughly to the candles to give them a little bit of an aged and worn look, I moved on to trying some transfers. I was interested to see how transfers would appear on this scale of model. I was a little bit disappointed. This was my first time looking at transfers from the Space Marine kits recently, as I haven't tended to need them, and I found the range of options was rather lacking, especially for vehicles. Everything was just a white transfer, and the only symbology was a chapter marking, the Aquila, and also the squad markings. Now I'm used to Horus Heresy transfer sheets, which are just covered in amazing iconography, so this was definitely a step down from those amazing Forge World transfers. However, with that said, the transfers still turned out okay after I'd put some decal softener on them, and I moved on to dry brushing elements of the model, such as the candles. Finally, I could incorporate my secret weapon. I had 3D printed a tiny D20 and painted a few of the faces on it with little approximations of numbers. I hung this from a chain wrapped around his hand, almost like a rosary, or maybe this Tabletop Time soldier's version of dog tags. The core of the model mostly finished, I moved on to his chainsword, using masking tape to mask off straight lines, and then painting the traditional black and yellow stripes. Got a sponge, weathering on some chipped areas, and overall I was pretty happy with the effect. We were streaming our Patreon mini stream, and Jen was there, so she helped me out by throwing down some base coats on the mini base. I didn't really give her much direction with this. I just said, hey, it's an alien world, put some colors down. So I think she tried out a whole bunch of different things. We ended up with this kind of brown, orange, and purple vibe. Orange and purple go together really well, so I was happy to leap with it. But after she placed down some texture paints, the finished product ended up looking a little bit more like a sandy desert with some weird mud or tar on it. I don't think the texture effect had dried
dried properly, but that didn't stop me. I knew I was going to use oodles of weathering powder, but before I did that, I had to brighten up those spongy little funguses, these vibrant pinks. In fact, a neon pink from the Scale 75 range to make them pop visually on the base. And then I heaped on different colors of weathering pigment, not only on the base, but also some black on the candles at the top. I spread these weathering pigments up the legs of the model to make him feel realized and like he fit in the world, and then set them all with airbrush thinner. Attempting some rather wild looking blue neon tufts on the base, I ultimately decided that the pink ones looked far better, removed them and replaced them. As a finishing touch, those spores needed to be oozing some pus. And with that done, it was time to lean back and look at my finished product. I was really happy with the model. I felt that this really captured the feeling of an action figure. So it was all finished up.
Whoa, not so fast there, Davey boy. I think you're missing one very important step.
Oh, well, no. Hang on, what are you doing?
You know what I mean. It's very important, Dave. You're forgetting something.
Streaking grime.
Yeah, you got a bloody streak of grime. I know you could look at it and call it done, but I don't like to do that. I like to grime everything within an inch of its life for me to feel satisfied. Streaking grime is for me now what dry brushing was for me when I got into the hobby as a kid. The magical thing you can do haphazardly on anything and it makes it look better. Yeah, I'm probably gonna look back at this sort of thing in a couple of years and regret it, but you know what? I can't help it. And this is a Tabletop Time themed paint job, and I am a part of Tabletop Time who belligerently insists streaking grime has to be part of most paint jobs. So, sorry Dave, I gotta grime this boy up. So with that one last forced step on this process of what could otherwise be considered a finished model, and though I'm biased, I can't help but feel just that little bit of streaking grime makes this zealous tabletop themed Space Marine all the more ready for some grimdark battle. Hell yeah!
Hey, he came out looking
He
spiffy.
looks pretty cool. What's your favorite part?
I think the candles, but I also think everything.
I think he looks like a pretty cool captain for the Tabletop Time themed chapter. There's just one thing missing.
What's that?
Surely a captain needs a squad.
Oh my God.
In a future video on this channel, we're going to finish the first giant Space Marine squad. But on top of that, I thought it'd be really fun. Dave's really into this idea. He had no idea I was going to do this. I thought it'd be really fun to get patrons to vote on their enemy. Once we have a squad and an enemy squad, we need the biggest f***ing wargaming table you've ever seen, and we're going to play the world's biggest battle report.
What?
You heard me. And these dudes are posable, so you know we can like stop motion their attacks and stuff. It's gonna be sick.
Oh my God.
Thank you to our patrons. Of course, if you want to vote, we'll have a poll going up soon if it's not out yet, where you can vote on the enemies of the giant space battle
sick.
thing.
Yeah.
And then eventually, I think it's also going to be a patron vote as to what the table is, because we don't know what that is yet. It's going to be giant. So is it like a giant Mars board or Tech City? It's going to be insane.
Where are we putting it?
I don't know. So make sure to like this video, guys, and subscribe for more future craziness with all sorts of fun tabletop gaming. Huge thank you to Warhammer 40,000 Lost Crusade for sponsoring this video and making it possible. Thank you to you for watching it. And Dave, thank you for working on this video with me.
You too. It was a lot of fun.
How you feeling about future plans?
I'm sure that'll be very exciting for the viewer.